This week's episode, we're going to take you from Bahia De Los Angeles to Guerrero Negro. Welcome back to the Rangeless Travel Podcast. We're your favorite adventure travel hosts. I'm Britt, and this is Ryan. Together, we travel the world by plane, train, and 89 Ford Sportsmobile. Currently, we're traveling the U.S. in an old van with our two dogs, Layla and Cedar. Every Tuesday, we share stories and tips to inspire you to book that next trip. So go ahead and don't be shy. Follow along with us at Rangeless_ on Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Let's dive in. And welcome back to our series of Driving Through Baja, where we're taking you on a step-by-step guide to make your way all the way down to La Paz. This is our third episode in the series, in case you're trying to follow along.
Now, you're starting in Bahia de Los Angeles. There's a few things you need to do before you leave town, just so that things go smoothly for you.
And you don't have to worry about it later down the road.
Right. Number one is fill up with fuel. Obviously, number one is always going to be fill up with fuel anytime you're in Baja.
Every single episode, fill up with fuel. Make sure you fill up with fuel. Get your jerry cans full. It's definitely going to depend on how long you spent in Bahia de Los Angeles, because we spent a week there, but some people just spend overnight there. But either way, no matter what you do, this is your third driving day since being in Mexico, for the most part. In the town, before you head out, there's a lot of options to get things done. You can get your laundry done. You can fill up all your water tanks. You can do all of those things. You don't have to. You can do it further down the road. You can do it
down the road, but it's just handy to just get it done there. It's a small town. It's not...
So it's easier. There's less congestion and there's less traffic. So, the logistics of all of it is easier. I'd recommend, if you don't have a gravity-filled water tank, fill up your onboard water, because there is a threaded hose.
Yeah.
If you have onboard propane, or you have fillable propane tanks, do your propane refill there. Anything else, it doesn't really matter.
No.
It doesn't really matter. You can do it down the road.
No. Now, when you're on the road, the first part of the road is pretty rough. Getting back to the main road from Bahia de Los Angeles is pretty rough. The potholes are pretty bad. A lot of times you're driving on the wrong side of the road just to avoid the potholes, and you're going really slow. So Google Maps says it's going to take 2.5 hours. It's actually going to take 4.5 hours to cover the 200 kilometers to get there.
I think it's a safe bet to just say double it. It's going to take you twice as long because of road conditions. So.
There's no fuel on the way there. So 200 kilometers, I don't know what that is exactly in miles, 120 miles, something like that. But there's no fuel stop. Not when we were there, they were closed. So make sure you fill up before you leave town. There's no military checkpoints, which is nice. There's no stopping and searching.
But there's the eco.
There's the eco toll, which supposedly sprays the bottom of your vehicle and kills any parasites that might be being brought across.
It just looked like a weak little water squirt.
Yeah, I don't know if it was working or doing anything, but it's 40 pesos, which is roughly about $2.
Yeah.
And you pay it just before you enter Guerrero Negro. But before you do that, if you want to check out the sand dunes that are just before Guerrero Negro, that's the time to do it, so that way you don't have to pay the $2 there and back.
That's one of the sites to do.
That's pretty much the only thing on that side of that toll.
Yeah, so the only thing before the toll is if you want to see the sand dunes, go and do that. We opted to skip the sand dunes because if you watched our last episode, we left because it got so windy that we were afraid our pop top was going to fly off.
Yes.
So, it was still so windy by the time we got down to Guerrero Negro.
If not even worse.
Yeah, so we're we're not going to drive out into the sand dunes and get completely, sandblasted. Yeah. It sounds like an expensive paint job. So, or a spa treatment that I just, did not need or want to be completely exfoliated from sand. We were no, not the time. But if the weather is nice, it might be a fun little excursion on your way down. Mm-hmm. And then once you get into Guerrero Negro, it's kind of just industrial.
Yeah, it feels like it's one of the largest salt exporters in the world. So there's huge salt flats there that they process the salt and export it all over the world. So it's very industrial feeling town. It's very utilitarian feeling. It's not very
warm and cozy
or welcoming or anything like that.
It's just a city.
Yeah.
But it does have a few draws in. The Salt Flats is one of them. You can go out to the Salt Flats. It looks really cool. But again, when we were there, it was so windy. We just opted out. We're like, again, we're going to go out to the Salt Flats. There's nothing to block the wind. No, we're going to get sand pelted. Like sand pelting, salt pelting. None of this sounds particularly enjoyable. So we just opted to skip it because it doesn't sound enjoyable.
But one thing that's worth actually staying there for is the whale watching when it's in season. It's supposed to be one of the best places in the entire world to see the gray whales, and they're supposed to be the friendliest gray whales in the world, where they come right up to the boats and everything out in the lagoon. And like there's a lot of researchers that hang out there and marine biologists. It's a haven for all of that kind of stuff. So if it's whale season, it could be worth staying a little bit longer to get out on one of those whale tours. It wasn't season for us, and it was really super windy, so I wouldn't fancy being on a boat in that condition.
No, so we opted stayed for one night. If the weather's a little bit more optimal, you're going on a whale watching trip, maybe like 2 to 3 nights to be able to see all of the things. There's also a lighthouse you can go out to.
Right, and you can camp out at.
You can camp out there as well.
You can also camp out in the sand dunes and out by the Salt Flats. The Salt Flats, it's paid entry, but it's only, you can stay out there as long as you want. It's just, there's 90 pesos to pay to get out, which is just under $5.
Yeah.
But once you get out there, you can stay out there and camp there for 2 weeks if you want.
We opted on none of these things.
No.
Because, again, it was so windy. Like, I don't know how many times I've said, like, so windy. If we were doing shots for every time I said so windy, we'd be blackout by now. But our overall experience in Guerrero Negro was interesting.
Yeah.
So because we opted out of everything, we opted to literally just like
stock up. So because there's a big grocery store.
Yes, there's a big grocery store. So we went to Lay, which I look for Lay grocery stores because they're big and they have everything. So I could do like all the shop in one go. They have like a bakery section. They have a hot bar section. Every time I go, Ryan stays in the car a lot when I go into the grocery store because I like to go by myself because it's like my time. But they have a hot bar in the Lay grocery stores, and every time I go there, there's like a line of like 7 or 8 just like dudes getting chicken wings. Like every single time I'm in there, there is a line at this hot bar to get chicken wings.
You never brought me any chicken wings?
No, I'm like nervous, like because okay, so like the one thing I could probably do in Spanish is order food, but like I gotta get in line with like all these dudes and like wait, and then I don't know, I just get nervous, but I'm gonna have to like woman up and orders chicken wings from the hot bar at Lay because they must be good. There's all these dudes just getting chicken wings every time. But yeah, so it's a good grocery store. If you see the Lays, get them. There's one in Guerrero Negro. So like we stocked up. By the time we were done stocking up, because we also took off on a drive we thought was going to be 2.5 hours and ended up being 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
So I just went grocery shopping. Now I'm hungry. And like, I didn't stop and get chicken wings at the hot bar. So I'm like, I'm hungry, but like, what are we going to eat? So we decided to stop at a little restaurant.
Yeah, it was called Black Coffee Cafe.
Yeah, and it was good. But I think it was like, it's like the American restaurant. Not because there was like a bunch of tourists in there, but because there was a bunch of like local people in there eating hamburgers and milkshakes.
There was.
So I think it was like the American restaurant.
Right.
It was good. We got hamburgers, fries. Ryan loved it because I
love a hamburger.
He's a slut for a good burg. And across the street when we were leaving, there's a Harry Potter cafe that we noticed, and they had like paper owls hanging from the ceiling and stuff, but it was dark.
Yeah, and it was closed when we were leaving.
Yeah, it was closed and it was dark, so we were like, oh no, because one of the first rules that everyone tells you in Baja is like, don't drive after it gets dark. Well, we're in the middle of the city and we're like, well, we're gonna have to drive to our campsite, so like obviously that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
So we were driving to our campsites, and Ryan's like, oh, yeah, I found a spot.
Yeah, we found a boondocking spot out on Overlander. There was a cluster of them all together out by, like, to the south of the city.
Yeah. No, it's dark, so it's, like, hard to see the turnoff. It's hard to see the roads.
I actually missed the turnoff at the first, and I had to come back on it.
Yeah, so now we're, like, we're on the side of the road, because the spots are basically, like, right inland from the side of the road, and we're driving around. We do not have four-wheel drive.
No. So I got out to inspect as we turned off the road onto the gravel, onto the ground, like
and
the
it's
sand.
soft.
It was soft sand. I was like, it's not worth it. So then you looked on iOverlander at some of the other spots around there.
So as like he's like outside the van, I'm like, oh, I should probably check because, you know, I'll find a spot for us. So I start looking. The first site I pull up, it's like, keep moving. People have been sequestered. I'm like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sequestered? My brain immediately said, slaughtered. Ryan gets in the car. I was like, we can't stay here. People are getting slaughtered. And he's like, they're not getting slaughtered. They're getting sequestered. And I'm like, same thing.
You mean stolen?
Same thing. That's what happened. You get sequestered right before you get slaughtered. Like, that's the series of events, right?
Or you get slaughtered when you don't let them sequester you.
Yeah, either way, like, there's a connection between the two, okay? I was on the right path.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, we can't like do that. Like,
no, it wasn't.
As the protector of this vehicle, like, I was like, I'm not ready to fight off a pack of men that are trying to sequester us because, like, me and Cedar are the only one that get in street fights in this van. Like, I'm the protector of this van.
It's just because you're from New Jersey, you're getting in street fights all the time.
You know? It is what it is. Either way, I'm still the protector of this van, and I wasn't ready to fight numbers, okay? I didn't know what the setup for the sequestering was. But apparently, like, 2 people were sequestered. So I was like...
And the military were running through and telling people not to stay there because of that.
Yeah, so we were like, all right, let's just find a campground. We found a good one.
We found one. It was out by Mario's restaurant, which is like just south of that toll that we talked about, the eco toll.
Yeah, the eco toll.
Right next to it. So you don't have to go back through the toll again to get there. It was nice. They had a big restaurant out there, but we'd already just eaten because we weren't planning on going there.
But when we went in, there was like a restaurant and a bar in there, and it seemed to be really social. I don't know if it always is or it was just the night that we were, but there was probably like 4 or 5 tables of guests in there, and they're all like yelling across the restaurant talking to each other.
Yeah, it was a huge room, and they're talking across the room to each other from all, like, I was like...
So I don't know if it's always super like friendly in there, but it was when we were there. And they
sold these huge, giant crystals of salt.
Yeah, they were giant rock crystals. And they were, like, affordably priced. Like, but you would have to, like, grind it down, break it up. You'd have to, like, hammer it.
You need a little, like, pickaxe for it.
Yeah, you'd have to, like, hammer it up and, like, put it in, like, a jar. But I think they may do it for you because there was a bunch of empty wine bottles in there. And I think they break it up for you and fill up a wine bottle. And it wasn't, like, crazy expensive. Like, I'm talking, like, $4 or $5. And you got, like, a year supply of salt. So, I mean...
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
That campground was it was nice. It was just a flat campground, big rig friendly, had hookups for electric and
water
water and all of them, but just check that they work first before you go.
Yeah, some of them weren't working and some of them were.
They had hot showers, toilets.
Yeah.
And
I love a hot shower.
It was just a flat dirt lot. Oh, actually, it wasn't just dirt. It was compacted sand with scallop shells all over it. They like cobbled the ground with scallop shells. That
Which must have been so much work.
Yeah. You have to go collect them all first.
Well, they probably sell scallops in the restaurant, and when they like were done with them, instead of throwing the shells away, someone started an art project, and it was really cool. In that same area, or in that same building, they also run
the whale tours.
The whale tours out of there. So if you were looking to stay like 2 to 3 days and do like all of what there is to offer in the area, which is whale tours, sand dunes, and salt flats, you could get all of, if you wanted to go on like the tours, you could do all of your organization from that campground.
Yeah.
And there's someone there that just does all like the tours and all the tourist organization and things like that. So you could book it all out of there, which would be really convenient because then you wouldn't have to like move
your
around.
rig or like meet someone somewhere or anything like that.
Or if you just have a big rig and you're looking to go for a whale watching tour, it'd be a good place to pull in because there's room for you to pull in and then go in and book everything.
Yeah. I'd recommend it there. It
yeah, I liked it. It was nothing fancy, but it was everything we needed for one night in Guerrero Negro. How much did it cost? I forget. 300?
300 pesos, which like 300 like pesos not to get sequestered. That's a bargain in my.
That is a bargain to not get sequestered. $15 or get sequestered. I don't know.
Yeah, but the overall vibe of the entire area was kind of like utilitarian, a little bit grimy, a little bit like.
It's just a city. Like the overall vibe is just like city.
Yeah, it's not like.
But
it doesn't like conduce for like relaxing, hanging out, enjoying like the area. It's more like you go do this, bing, bang, boom, and leave. On to the next one.
That's it.
Speaking of which, in our next episode, we're going to be bringing you guys from Guerrero Negro all the way down to the desert oasis of San Ignacio, which we both really, really love.
So like, subscribe, hit the notification button.
And you can find more from us on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts. And until next week, bye.
Bye.